Harry's list of demands?
So we've got 3 things on this wish list, supposedly, that would precipitate a possible reunion with King Charles. The first thing would be...
It began, as these royal dramas so often do, not with a flourish of trumpets or a carriage rolling down the mall, but with a black SUV idling outside Clarence House under the weight of London's September drizzle. The lenses of waiting photographers, sharpened and hungry like vultures circling above a battlefield, focused on the rear window of the car where a pale outline could be seen. Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, son of the King, exiled royal turned Hollywood confessionalist. For weeks leading up to this moment, whispers swirled like smoke through the press. Would there be reconciliation, a handshake, an embrace, or perhaps the first delicate steps toward repairing the torn seams of a dynasty? Yet, as the vehicle pulled through the gates and Harry vanished from public view, few could have predicted how quickly that hope would collapse into farce, into a theater of humiliation played out in barely 55 minutes, half of which wasn't even spent in his father's company. The headlines, pre-written and neatly packaged for international outlets, spoke of peace talks, of bridges rebuilt, of a father welcoming his son with open arms. But the photographs told another story, an unmissable, undeniable, devastating story. Harry's jaw clenched so tight it seemed he might grind his teeth into dust. His eyes fixed in a thundercloud glare, as if searching desperately for a script that wasn't there. His shoulders slumped beneath the weight of rejection, the expression not of a prince reunited with his father, but of a man denied a refund at the customer service counter. London rain streaked down the window like tears he would never shed in public, and the timing of the click of the cameras could not have been crueler. At the precise moment when the palace machine needed to project unity, the internet was already preparing memes that would slice him apart. Inside Clarence House, the air was not heavy with reconciliation, but perfumed with the faint aroma of Earl Grey tea. Lukewarm, almost ceremonial in its politeness, as if poured not for pleasure, but for duty. The meeting, they said, lasted less than an hour. The truth was more brutal. Strip away the security checks and perfunctory greetings, and Harry had no more than 20 minutes with his father, a span shorter than the time it takes for a tea bag to properly steep. 20 minutes to present what sources later described as a list of demands, though courtiers framed it more delicately as requests, security guarantees, financial considerations, clarifications about titles, and, beneath it all, the silent desperation of a man facing lawsuits, mounting legal fees, and the slow evaporation of Hollywood contracts that once promised him independence. But the royal brick wall stood firm. King Charles, seasoned by decades of scandal, weathered Harry's overtures with the calm of a man who has long since learned the value of silence. He listened politely, nodded with practiced neutrality, and offered the royal equivalent of thoughts and prayers. No concessions, no promises, no deals. Observers later speculated that Charles's response was deliberately vague, a masterclass in polite non-commitment, leaving Harry with nothing solid to take back across the Atlantic. When Harry emerged from Clarence House, empty-handed and visibly rattled, the contrast was stark. The king, later photographed going about his day with measured serenity, looked unbothered, while Harry seemed like a man chastised, reduced, diminished. And yet, the humiliation did not end there. For, seated quietly during part of the meeting, according to multiple reports, was Queen Camilla. The same Camilla whom Harry had once described in his memoir Spare as dangerous, manipulative, and capable of sacrificing others to improve her own reputation. Imagine the surreal awkwardness of that tableau. Harry, across from the woman he had publicly roasted, forced to swallow his pride while asking her husband for financial and security concessions. Sources suggested Camilla sat mostly in silence, sipping her tea like a silent judge, her very presence a reminder of wounds Harry himself had torn open. To the outside world, the optics were devastating. A son trying to negotiate with his father while the stepmother he had vilified looked on, unflinching. The photographs of Harry leaving Clarence House fueled an inferno online. One viral meme compared his expression to a contestant leaving The Apprentice after hearing the words, "You're fired." Another depicted him slumped in the car with the caption, Mood, when dad says no and stepmom's still mad. TikTok creators layered the images over the infamous Trump firing sequence, complete with the soundbite of "You're fired," looping again and again to millions of views. Twitter, ever ruthless, declared him the Duke of Denied. Hashtags trended. Shisha Clarence House clapback, Archie hapless Harry, and even the cruelly barbed royal refund rejected. And yet, within hours, mainstream outlets rushed to spin the narrative in softer tones. Reconciliation, warmth, hopes for a new beginning. As if 20 minutes of awkward tea could undo years of televised interviews, memoir revelations, and legal battles. But the audience was no longer buying it. Ordinary fans had already memed his rain-streaked face into oblivion. Side-by-side images spread across social platforms. Stormcloud Harry in the SUV versus polished, grinning Harry hours later at an Invictus Games reception. Commentators laughed at the whiplash. Photoshop couldn't fix that transition, one user quipped, while another wrote, "From grounded son to grinning salesman in under an hour." Under an hour. What made the contrast sharper was the timing. Harry had no choice but to attend the Invictus reception almost immediately after the Clarence House debacle, forced to plaster on a public smile while the whole internet dissected his exit. To insiders, it was tragicomic. 1 minute a scolded son, the next minute a grinning spokesperson. To the outside world, it was a performance that fooled no one. But perhaps the most explosive speculation centered not on what happened in London, but on what was waiting. Thousands of miles away in Montecito. Meghan. Commentators painted vivid pictures of her pacing their Californian mansion, phone in hand, preparing to grill Harry the moment he left Clarence House. Did you get the money? Did Charles agree to security? Did he apologize to me? The imagined interrogation echoed online, with parody tweets writing dialogue for Meghan. You had one job. Harry. One. Fans joked about Harry rehearsing excuses in the back of the car, knowing none of the answers would satisfy his wife's expectations. The palace, meanwhile, said nothing. No statements, no clarifications, just carefully staged photographs of Charles continuing his royal schedule as if nothing had happened. The silence was strategic. Charles knew the press cycle would devour Harry without him lifting a finger. Why issue a statement when Harry's own face had told the story? Why clarify when the memes themselves were louder than any press release? By doing nothing, the palace let Harry twist in the wind, the optics sharpening against him with each passing hour. And then came the whispers. Leaks, as always, began to trickle into rival outlets, each painting a different version of events. American magazines hinted that Charles had welcomed Harry warmly, expressed hope for healing, and even showed flashes of paternal affection. But British tabloids were quick to counter with the brutal arithmetic. How much reconciliation could occur in less than 20 minutes? The numbers didn't add up. The real agenda, critics insisted, wasn't forgiveness. It was money, security, titles, legal costs. With lawsuits piling up, Netflix renewals uncertain, and Spotify deals collapsed, Harry's supposed independence was crumbling. The Clarence House meeting, they suggested, was less a family visit and more a shopping trip with a list in hand. As one tabloid wrote with surgical cruelty, he walked in with a shopping list and walked out with an empty bag. Camilla's presence in the room added yet another layer of tension. Fans dredged up passages from Spare where Harry accused her of trading stories with the press, selling out others to improve her image. Now those same fans imagined the silent scene. Camilla sipping tea, saying nothing, while Harry attempted to negotiate with her husband. One commentator dryly noted, "Awkward doesn't begin to describe it." Body language analysts dissected the footage frame by frame. Harry's jaw clenched, anger, not sorrow. Shoulders stiff, resentment, not grief. The verdict was unanimous. This was not a man reconciled. This was a man rebuffed. And so, Clarence House became another chapter in a saga that refused to end. Comparisons flowed freely. Some linked Harry's visit to the strained meetings of Diana and Charles in the 1990s. Others evoked Sarah Ferguson's infamous cold receptions from the palace. History, they argued, was repeating itself. A younger generation of Windsor once again walking away bruised, humiliated, frozen out. But unlike Diana or Fergie, Harry had something they did not: the machinery of Netflix, of sympathetic magazines, of carefully curated leaks that could reframe humiliation into victimhood within a week. That, perhaps, is where the real suspense lies. For what the cameras captured in 20 minutes cannot remain as it was. The Sussex PR machine will not allow it. In glossy spreads, in whisper-fed exclusives, in sympathetic sound bites, the story will be rewritten. Tears, healing, hope. The father-son moment reframed not as rejection, but as the fragile beginning of reconciliation. Yet, the public has already seen the truth. The clenched jaw, the storm cloud glare, the empty hands. The contradiction is undeniable. Glossy words versus unmissable photographs. And so, Harry left Clarence House not as a son embraced, but as a supplicant turned away. He walked in a prince. He walked out a meme. And the cruelest part? For once, it wasn't the palace that leaked. It wasn't the tabloids digging for dirt. It was his own face, immortalized in raindrops and camera flashes, telling the world everything it needed to know. Everything it needed to know. It was supposed to be a tea. A simple, civilized, quintessentially British cup of tea. That's how the palace framed it. That's how the headlines teased it. That's how the optimists clung to it. A son returning to his father's house, a monarch opening his doors, perhaps the beginnings of reconciliation after years of bitterness, betrayal, and bombshell interviews. But the reality, the reality, was a storm cloud of humiliation that brewed faster than any pot of Earl Grey. And as the drizzle soaked the gates of Clarence House, the cameras waiting outside weren't capturing the triumphant reunion of father and son. They were capturing the downfall of a man who walked in with a shopping list and walked out with nothing but memes. The car pulled up, sleek and black, shielding the Duke of Sussex from the public he once commanded. Behind the tinted glass sat Harry, jaw clenched like a man about to sit for a dental root canal, eyes darting with the look of someone about to beg for what he once believed was his birthright. The moment the door shut behind him inside Clarence House, the clock began ticking. 55 minutes, the official line claimed. But once you subtract the security checks, the awkward greetings, the polite shuffling of staff, what remained was less than half an hour. 20 minutes. 20 minutes of stilted conversation with the father who was once his protector, now his sovereign, and seated nearby, the stepmother he once branded as dangerous and manipulative. 20 minutes to salvage dignity, to pitch demands, to beg for security, money, titles, and perhaps even scraps of validation. And 20 minutes to fail. But the palace knew exactly what it was doing. Charles, a veteran of decades of scandal, didn't need to raise his voice, didn't need to refuse directly. He simply let the silence do the work. The polite nods, the vague phrases, the royal equivalent of thoughts and prayers. Camilla sat in the corner like an insurance policy, sipping her tea in queenly silence, a living witness to whatever was said. Her presence was deliberate, and Harry knew it. This was not a warm family catch-up. This was a deposition, a trap wrapped in china cups and saucers. And he walked straight into it. When he emerged less than an hour later, the face said it all. This was not a son leaving his father's house with renewed hope. This was a man denied, chastised, and humiliated. His jaw clenched so tight it looked ready to shatter. His eyes heavy with rage. His shoulders slumped as if the crown of exile weighed twice as heavy as the crown his father wore. The photographs told a story that no press release could spin away. The drizzle streaked down the SUV window like a cruel metaphor for tears unshed. And in that moment, Harry was not a prince, not a duke, not even a player on the royal board. He was a man walking out of customer service after being told the refund policy doesn't apply to him. The internet pounced like hyenas. Within hours, memes flooded Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. One side-by-side image showed Harry's storm cloud face in the car against a grinning King Charles greeting the public later that day, captioned, "Who's unbothered? Who's unemployed?" Another viral clip layered the footage of Harry leaving Clarence House with the theme from The Apprentice, ending on Donald Trump's iconic line, "You're fired." Twitter dubbed it the Venmo Summit. mocking the idea of Harry showing up with a wish list like an overdrafted college student begging dad for a bailout. TikTok compared him to Kendall Roy from Succession, desperately seeking validation and getting none. And fans, merciless as ever, crowned him with a new title, Harold the Hapless. Meanwhile, Clarence House executed the oldest play in the royal PR playbook: do nothing, say nothing. Release carefully curated images of Charles carrying on with his duties, smiling with schoolchildren, greeting the public, embodying calm continuity. The contrast was devastating. Harry's storm-cloud face versus Charles's effortless composure was all the proof the public needed about who had the upper hand. Industry veterans called it a strategic checkmate. Charles had achieved exactly what he wanted. A meeting so short, so polite, and so inconsequential that Harry left with nothing to spin. If he leaked sympathetic claims later, the palace could point to Camilla as a witness. If he tried to reframe it as reconciliation, the photographs of his clenched jaw would laugh in his face. And so Clarence House stayed silent, knowing silence would hurt him more than words ever could. Hollywood noticed, too. PR strategists whispered to Variety and The Hollywood Reporter that Netflix executives were cringing. After all, the Sussex brand depends on projecting access, the idea that audiences are getting rare, intimate, royal insight. But if Harry can't even last more than 20 minutes with his father, what exactly are they selling? How many docuseries can you wring out of rejection? As one industry insider scoffed, Season 3, denied by Dad. The mockery spread like wildfire. Fans posted memes comparing Harry's 20-minute tea to the average length of a Love Island breakup scene, or worse, a Marvel post-credit teaser. Even Vanity Fair, usually sympathetic to the Sussexes, admitted, "It's hard to sell reconciliation when the meeting is shorter than a trailer binge." The palace, of course, had learned these lessons the hard way. In 1992, during the Queen's infamous Annus Horribilis, the monarchy survived not by defending itself but by projecting stability amid chaos. In 2020, when Harry and Meghan detonated Megxit, the palace statements emphasized calm continuity while the Sussexes spun chaos across prime time. The Clarence House tea meeting fit perfectly into that tradition. Don't attack, don't defend, just outlast. Let Harry implode on his own timeline. And implode he did, because if the humiliation of leaving empty-handed wasn't enough, the contrast that followed made it worse. Hours later, Harry had no choice but to plaster on a public smile at an Invictus Games reception. The cameras clicked again, and the side-by-side comparisons wrote themselves. Stormcloud Harry in the car versus forced grin Harry at the reception. One meme captured it best. Mood when Dad says no, but you still have to network. The whiplash was brutal, and the internet had no mercy. And then there was Meghan, always there, even when thousands of miles away. Commentators gleefully imagined her pacing around their Montecito mansion, phone in hand, waiting to grill Harry the moment he left Clarence House. Did you get the money? Did Charles agree to security? Did he apologize to me? Fans on Twitter wrote parody scripts of the interrogation, with one viral tweet summing it up. Meghan to Harry, you had one job. The jokes weren't just cruel, they were cutting at the carefully crafted image of the Sussexes as a united front. Suddenly, Harry looked less like an empowered partner and more like a husband delivering bad news to a spouse who demanded results. The meme factory shifted gears, portraying Harry as a henpecked man rehearsing excuses in the back of the SUV. The financial context made it all sting sharper. Reports noted Harry's legal battles had already drained millions, while Meghan's lifestyle projects hadn't hit the lofty numbers once promised. Spotify deals gone, Netflix renewals in question, lawsuits piling up, and now the royal bank account slammed shut. Commentators speculated that without palace support, the Sussexes would be forced to monetize their private lives even more aggressively. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. One viral TikTok put it bluntly, no money, no titles, just vibes and Netflix. Another showed Leonardo DiCaprio in The Wolf of Wall Street begging for investors, captioned, Harry leaving Clarence House 2025. For Harry, the humiliation wasn't temporary, because when an image becomes a meme, and a meme becomes cultural shorthand, reputations don't just wobble, they calcify. Clarence House tea wasn't just a meeting. It was the turning point where Harry stopped being the misunderstood prince and became the punchline prince. Fans no longer framed him as the victim of a cold institution. They framed him as a man out of moves. And once that label sticks, it's nearly impossible to peel off. And yet, the Sussex playbook is predictable. Just as after Oprah, just as after Spare, leaks will drip feed to glossy magazines about tears, healing, and tentative reconciliation. Netflix will find a way to spin the 20-minute tea into another behind-closed-doors moment. Sympathetic journalists will quote unnamed friends about Charles's warmth. But the public has already seen the truth. They've seen the rain-streaked window, the clenched jaw, the empty-handed exit. Those aren't the visuals of reconciliation. They're the visuals of rejection. And no amount of spin can erase them. So the question lingers like a storm on the horizon. If Harry can't win at Clarence House, where can he win? Because if a 20-minute tea with his own father ends in global memes, what happens the next time he faces the cameras? Will Meghan's fury fuel another round of explosive interviews? Will Netflix try to reframe the humiliation into content? Or will Harry continue the cycle of self-inflicted wounds, chasing validation he cannot secure? For the palace, it was checkmate in 20 minutes. For Harry, it was a defeat that may last years. He walked in with a wish list. He walked out with nothing. And the cruelest part, he didn't just lose the meeting, he lost the narrative. Because when your face tells the story better than your press release, you've already lost. Clarence House didn't need to say a word. The internet did it for them. Harry came as a prince. He left as a meme. And memes, unlike tea bags, don't lose their flavor with time. Don't lose their flavor with time. This is Crown and Controversy, unraveling the royals, one scandal at a time. Don't forget to subscribe.